17 persons we have looking at us right now on YouTube, and we have persons already on Facebook. So let me say thank you, Opposition Leader. Real name is Kelvin Henry, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here on the Street 919 FM. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, and thanks for having me and giving me the opportunity to address your viewership and listening audience in Barbados and the wider world.
But Trinidad and Tobago, actually. Is this Trinidad?
I was told Barbados.
No. This is Trinidad and Tobago, man.
Okay.
All right.
Well, then, all we do is adjust appropriately to Trinidad and Tobago. I spoke to Trinidad a day in the week.
Okay.
And I think it's TV6 or something like that.
Yes.
Anyhow, no problem speaking twice.
And I'm really glad that you took up the invitation, because I wanted to hear from you, because I'm a young man, and I really wanted to get from you the history of this whole border dispute that we're hearing about with Guyana and Venezuela. And I would have listened to documentaries on YouTube, and we would have heard other persons' perspective on it. But I wanted to hear from somebody from Guyana, who you are living there, you're born, you grew up there, so you would have the best information to share with Trinidad and Tobago and the listeners. When did all of this started?
Well, it's a very difficult thing to say, because from the time attempts at colonization started, there were always problems. But this issue is linked directly to around the first quarter of the 19th century, particularly after the United States became the power in the world.
Right.
And after the 1823 Monroe Doctrine, in which the United States declared that they wouldn't tolerate other colonial powers in their backyard. You would recall that Venezuela became independent in 1811, I think it was.
Right.
When it became independent, it started to push for the delineation of the border between Guyana and Venezuela.
Right.
At the time, they used the United States to pressure the British into agreeing to have the border delineated. In 1897, they agreed to the Washington Treaty, and that Washington Treaty set up an arbitral tribunal to listen to the matter and determine it. And so in 1999, having listened, the tribunal concluded that Guyana, as is today, is the border. Now, it is important to note here that Guyana lost territory in that arbitral award. They lost the Orinoco Basin to Venezuela.
Right.
The people seem not to
No,
remember.
we don't know. No, and we don't know that. We didn't know that.
But yes, I'm saying this to you, that we did lose a lot of territory.
Right.
Venezuela. And when the award was given in 1899, Venezuela actually celebrated the territories it got from Guyana. They had a celebration welcoming it. And then in 1905, there was what was called the Land Commission.
Okay.
The Land Commission went underground and actually mapped the territory as identified by the arbitral award of 1899. And then in 1931, Venezuela, Guyana, and Brazil met and established what is called the tri-junction point, the point at which the three countries would have met. And so all of Venezuela's action post 1899 up until 1962 accepted the tri-junction point. They went as far as producing stamps with the present Guyana map. Now in 1962, there was a junior lawyer in the arbitral award. Just to give some clarity, the award saw America representing Venezuela,
Right.
the British represented by the British, and the impartial party was the Russians.
Okay.
One of the junior members of the Venezuelan team that represented Venezuela, one Malé Provo, alleged that there was a crooked deal between the United States and the Russians, the British and the Russians, that resulted in them losing Essequibo. This was left in a memorandum with the instruction that it should only be opened after the death of Malé Provo.
Right.
And so they allegedly opened it, and this claim re-emerged. When the claim re-emerged, the British engaged Venezuela on behalf of British Guyana then, because we were on the threshold of becoming independent. You're aware we became independent in 1966. So in 1962, when this happened, the British engaged Guyana and Venezuela and signed what was called the Geneva Agreement.
Right.
As a result of the Geneva Agreement, Venezuela was provided the opportunity to provide evidence of this deal, illegal deal, that resulted in them losing territory. They never did, because they cannot. There is no such evidence.
Right.
But ever since then, Venezuela continued to pursue this claim that the Essequibo belongs to them. For Guyanese, the boundary was settled by the arbitral award of 1899. However, the Geneva Agreement provides for the matter to be dealt with peacefully and within the confines of international law. Over a period, first between 1970 and 1982, Dr. Eric Williams initiated a process that resulted in the matter being placed in cold storage for 12 years under what is called the Protocol of Port of Spain. And that I'm speaking to Trinidadians, I should make the point that this was the first time a matter of colonial countries or the immediate post-colonial countries were settled by only Caribbean people.
Right.
And it is significant that the 1970 Protocol of Port of Spain decided that for 12 years the matter will be placed in cold storage and no country will make a claim against each other.
Right.
In 1982, when the Protocol of Port of Spain expired, Venezuela decided that they were not going to renew it.
Okay.
And so the claims again re-emerged.
If you don't mind me asking,
Guyana,
who was the president of Venezuela at that time?
In it might have been Herrera Campaigns, if I remember.
Okay then, right.
Might have been President Herrera Campaigns.
Right.
I could be wrong. I didn't check it recently, but just from memory, I think it was Herrera Campaigns who was president, because before was Andres Perez.
Right.
Time. And then when the government changed and Herrera, yes, I'm like 90% sure, it's Herrera Campaigns, they decided that they were not going to move forward with the Protocol of Port of Spain.
Okay.
At that point, the Geneva Agreement provides for the re-engagement of the United Nations to deal with the issue. We had the good officers process, where the UN identify a good officer to negotiate with the two to see if they could narrow the barriers. Unfortunately, that didn't succeed. And for years until 2018, we were dealing with the good officers process. And in 2018, the government of Guyana under President David Granger decided that they're going to take the matter to the International Court of Justice. And so the matter was taken there. When the matter was taken there, Venezuela challenged the jurisdiction of the court.
Okay.
The court heard the matter.
Right.
The court heard the matter and concluded and ruled that it had jurisdiction.
Okay.
And so we're at the point where the court decided they have jurisdiction. Guyana has already presented its case. I think Venezuela will have to present its case. And then the matter will be judged based on its merit before the International Court of Justice. And that is why we have said as opposition, as the presidents meet in St. Vincent at present, we made it very clear that there should be no discussion on the Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy, because the controversy is properly placed before the International Court of Justice for resolution, and anything outside of that can compromise it and put us on that slippery slope, which we don't want to. So that is where we are as it relates to the controversy.
And what are your thoughts about CARICOM? Because CARICOM would have made a statement saying that they stand on the side of Guyana, and what they're also saying is that they want peace. They want peace. They stand on the side of Guyana and they stand on the side of peace. What are your thoughts about that?
We welcome CARICOM's statement.
Right.
We welcome the statement of the United States, the British, the Brazilians.
Right.
We welcome the statement of the Commonwealth, all of those, because we also want peace.
Right.
However, we are also aware that what is happening is part of the geopolitics.
Okay.
And that while CARICOM is united as a body, we have seen attempts by Venezuela through PetroCaribe to influence and soften some of the positions of Caribbean leaders as individual states. And I have said that the government of Ghana needs to have a well-structured, organized campaign to put the facts out there and to engage those Caribbean territories that are engaged in Venezuela to ensure that the solid support continues. So while we welcome the support of CARICOM and all the others, we also recognize that we are involved in a dynamic geopolitical situation, and one has to identify the specificities of each country, because even though as a body you are all for Guyana and supportive of Guyana, you can see a softening of positions sometimes at the individual level. So it is our task really to engage them to ensure that there is always the solid support, both at the level of the individual country and at the level of CARICOM in general.
But do you think that the government is taking your advice on really reaching with the geopolitics? Do you think that they are really reaching out to them and give, because this meeting could be a point where they can, because some of the leaders you're talking about, and I know who you're talking about, could this be a meeting today of them edifying and educating and really bringing them to the awareness of how serious this matter is?
Well, I think they know how serious the matter is. They might just be reinforcing it.
Right.
But it is deep. It is deeper than that.
Okay.
What Ghana needs, now that Ghana has oil, Ghana cannot argue that it doesn't have the resources to do the public relations and diplomatic work that is necessary for efficacy.
Okay.
And so our criticism of the government is that it has failed to do the kind of well-structured, organized diplomatic work, not only in the Caribbean, but in Latin America. When you engage people in Latin America, all they know is that Venezuela has a claim. What they do not know is about the arbitral award of 1899. And it is incumbent on us as a government and as our people to ensure we have a public relations program that targets the media in Latin America, that targets the media in the Caribbean.
Yes. Yes.
We have also advocated for the government to prepare a memoir with all the information and send out envoys to deliver them and to speak to various interest groups and states in the Caribbean and Latin America. On a matter like this, you have to have an all-out structured diplomatic and public relations campaign to ensure that your message is out there. Once your message is out there, once the facts are out there, then when you touch them, you will have a soft landing.
Right.
But if it isn't there and people are not clear as to your position, then questions will be asked. Yeah. And so it is really the work of the government that is lacking here. There is need for more work to ensure that the entire Caribbean and Latin America is well educated on this issue so that there can be no vacillation on this question of support. And so I believe it is one of the areas the government has to develop, including information in the universities. Universities do research all the time on these issues, and we should have the information out there so that it becomes self-evident to all those who are researching, engaging, that Guyana's cause is a just cause, that there is really no dispute that the 1899 arbitral award settled the matter, and Venezuela is making a spurious claim against Guyana, which we have to reject diplomatically and otherwise.
You know, you said something that I would have heard before, but you brought it a little more, well, how to put it, more real to me when you talked about Dr. Eric Williams and the sunset clause, where they would have put it in a cold storage, just pussy. And Venezuela said, hey, after that ended, it was 12 years, right?
Yeah.
After that ended, Venezuela didn't want to have it, didn't want to go back that way anymore. Could you explain to me, I don't know if I missed it, but is it that they didn't want to go back there because what was the reason they give? Because we're seeing now where it is apparent that they from since then they were just really just how to put it, allow that time frame to create more claims against Guyana.
I think that when Venezuela decided that they don't want to go there anymore, is when they recognize that the world was leaning towards Guyana.
Okay.
That was one of the things that was happening.
Okay.
Two, they recognize if the matter is in cold storage, they cannot pursue their spurious claim, and they wanted to pursue it.
Okay.
And so I also think that at the time, Venezuela itself wanted to shift it in another direction. You must observe that since then, what Venezuela tried to do is to put it in the bilateral realm, meaning direct negotiations between Guyana and Venezuela. Now Guyana knows full well that in any negotiation in which there is such an asymmetry, in which Venezuela will be extremely powerful and Guyana geographically and otherwise much smaller, then it didn't make sense for Guyana to want to be part of a direct dialogue with Venezuela. And Venezuela wanted a direct dialogue so that they can benefit from the power that exists in the asymmetry against a small country. And this should be evident to all, because, you know, I want to bring another fact to bear. When the Venezuela lost land to Brazil, but Venezuela never claimed any land that Brazil had. Now, if you were saying that the 1899 arbitral award was as a result of a deal between and among the arbitrators, then it should follow ipso facto that the land that Brazil got was gotten illegally. But yet Venezuela pursues it against Guyana, but it doesn't pursue it against Brazil. And that is because it recognizes it doesn't have the military and other capabilities to take on Brazil. And what it brings out is that Venezuela here is operating like a bully against a small country.
Right.
And I thought I should bring that out because those are some of the factors that would have contributed to why they didn't want it to go back in cold storage and why they wanted this new approach in which they can pursue their bilateralism as opposed to multilateralism, which will bring in a kind of a third party and allow for some form of arbitration or reconciliation as it relates to the matter.
Yes. You know, something you said also that kind of I want you to bring a little more clarity to when you would have spoken about Caribbean leaders having to, yes, support Guyana, but still treading softly where Venezuela is concerned. And well, we know about the oil and gas deal, the Dragon deal with Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela. But also, I during this whole situation, I got to find out that Barbados buy oil from Venezuela and stuff like that. So, and I was thinking, listening to you, I was just gathering the thoughts of why isn't Guyana reaching out to the CARICOM neighbors like Barbados and other CARICOM islands to purchase their oil?
Well, I have said in the parliament here in Guyana that the Guyana government is deficient. It should already have developed a foreign policy of oil and gas. If it had done that, it would have now had resources allocated to become involved in economic diplomacy. Right. Any politician, any diplomat that is worth his or her salt would know that each country has its interests. Each country has its needs. And if you are going to be an effective political force in the Caribbean, then you have to now use the resources at your disposal to understand what is desirable by Caribbean territories. And rather than allow Venezuela to run down the road of just Petro-Caribbean, in which it's giving Caribbean countries concession, then it is our era to rectify. Let us not forget, this is not new. There was a time when Guyana needed oil and depended on Trinidad and Tobago. And we were indeed thankful for it. Now that we have oil and gas, the government politicians need to move away from trying to, by corrupt means, get all the benefits from the oil and gas and invest in a Caribbean and Latin American program that will help us to give concessions to those countries and therefore at the same time promote our diplomatic agenda and be able to protect our territorial integrity and sovereignty. The fundamental problem here is the lack of vision on the part of Ghana government in terms of developing a diplomatic approach that allows us to win friends in the Caribbean. Every budget in the last 2 years that I've spoken, or every time I spoke on Guyana, Venezuela, and in the last budget since I'm in Parliament, I have bemoaned the fact that there is the absence of foreign policy in the context of the discovery of oil. You can't discover oil, which puts you in a new arena, both in terms of wealth and expectation of others. And then you don't develop the policy framework and the concomitant projects to be able to execute and ensure you enjoy the influence that comes from your economic position. All and sundry know that while diplomacy and foreign policy appears always to be political, they are underpinned by economics.
Beautiful. I love how you put that. I love how you put that. You know, we had a statement made by our opposition leader that I would have loved to hear. What's your view on it? I don't know if you heard the statement made by our opposition leader concerning the issue with Guyana and Venezuela.
I heard the statement, and we welcome support. But to say I looked through it in a thorough way, the Barbados one, I'd worked with the opposition leader in Barbados, and so we worked on a statement together. In the case of Trinidad, that didn't happen. A statement was put up. We welcome the fact that they support Guyana, but in terms of the nitty-gritties of it, I must say that either I didn't pay attention or I didn't see anything that I needed to comment on at this stage.
Okay, all right. I appreciate your diplomacy in your statements, but it's at a point where people are now coming on, and some persons would have missed your opening remarks, especially where the meeting today with some CARICOM leaders and your president. You were saying that, hey, stay away from that discussion where this whole Venezuela, Guyana matter is concerned, because it's before the court, and your advice, you sent out an advisory to the president. Hey, even though you're attending this meeting should not be circled around the situation that is before the court.
Yes, from the inception, when I spoke with the president, I said to him that should not happen. And the reason it should not happen is, if you follow the evolution of Venezuela's approach in this matter, you see a constant attempt to shift the issue away from the multilateral institutions into bilateral dialogue.
Right.
And like I said before, in an asymmetric relationship in which Venezuela is far more powerful than you, you don't want to get in such a fight. The biblical David and Goliath ain't going to occur again in a short while. So it's not going to occur again in a short while. One can move from the standpoint that little Guyana will slay big Venezuela. One has to deal with it from a pragmatic standpoint. And the pragmatism directs that we need an interlocutor in the sense of the International Court of Justice, the UN, etc. And it is for that reason I've said to the president, you need to stay away from the Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy, because it is properly before the International Court of Justice. It should be dealt with there, and that is it. Because from the time the Protocol of Port of Spain came to an end, Venezuela has been pursuing this approach to take us into an arena in which they have the upper hand against us. We cannot afford that and should never allow it. And that is why I advise the president to stay clear of the Guyana-Venezuela territorial controversy.
So
I also said to him and in the parliament that if they go down that road, though we are united on this issue, they cannot guarantee support.
Right. So you all are united right now based on how things are going. You are happy with the approach of how things are being dealt with where this matter is concerned.
Look, I start from the standpoint that for you to even struggle for power in Guyana, you got to own Guyana.
Right.
And therefore, first and foremost, must be for us to protect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Guyana. Guyana's politics has always been a divisive politics. But one issue throughout the years we have been united on is that Essequibo is ours, that Venezuela's claim is spurious, and that the arbitral award of 1899 settled this matter. Right. We continue to be united on that. We are dissatisfied with some of the approaches taken by the government. We are prepared to engage them to have those rectified. Right. But we do believe that in the interest of the people of Guyana, we have to support the government. Additionally, if the Caribbean community is supporting us, Brazil is supporting us, the United States is supporting us, you have broad-based support. We as the opposition in Ghana cannot make this a partisan political issue, save and except the government doesn't show goodwill and good faith in what we're doing. But once there is goodwill, there is faith, and there is consultation, we are prepared to stay united on this matter to confront Venezuela and ensure the territory that belongs to us continue to be with us.
Wow, I must say I'm very much impressed. I'm I'm really, really impressed and happy with your clinical and really balanced approach to this situation. You see country before party. And that is applaudable. I really tip my hat off to you for this. And I have to tell you, sir, this is commendable. And you are clearly a man for your country. You all the other intricacies of how things could be done and and you would give advice. You go to the parliament, you state it out clearly, and to the listeners and viewers who are seeing when people are seeing this is what you call true leadership, and I'm really happy about your approach, sir.
I can say to you, there are those who are part of the opposition who felt at various stages that we shouldn't support. I went through the pains of explaining and bringing people on board because this is a matter that we should be united on. I continue to caution the government about some of the things that they are doing that are not in good faith.
Right.
I hope they change so that we can continue to approach this matter as a national issue. It is always good if you have an international support to be thankful for that support, respect the support, but do the things to ensure that that support continues.
But I would want to ask you, are you open for interacting with the listeners, take some calls and hear how they what
I didn't hear that. Go that again?
I said, are you open for interacting with our listeners a little bit?
No problem at all.
All right. So we have 2 or 3 calls, 342-0081, 342-0081, 466-5391. We have a call already on the line. I'll take this call. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Pastor Google. I must commend you on this particular piece of journalism. Fantastic that to get the opposition leader from Guyana on air, live. I want to say it's great to hear directly from someone from Guyana. It reinforces the information, because you know you get bits and pieces all over the place. So, fantastic.
Thank you very much.
I would just like to ask the opposition leader, the internal decisions that Venezuela has made with creating the own resolution, do you believe there is a peaceful way to solve this problem, or do you think that Venezuela is going to be hard and fast? And that's why you need all hands on deck mediated. The current president has that in them to negotiate with you all. I'll ignore it.
Thank you very much.
All right, politics, international politics is always a combination of domestic and international. At the domestic level, Maduro is in trouble. Election-wise, etc. I believe that a lot of this is aimed at deflecting from the internal situation in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
I think he went off on a limb to hold a referendum, and then he couldn't turn back. But having done that, we have now got to reject his claim of establishing Guyana Essequibo, which is our Essequibo.
Right.
We have to reject that, and we have to carry an international campaign so that none of the countries around accept it. That's the first thing I want to see. The second thing I want to see is that the people of Venezuela will want peace.
Yes.
The people of Guyana want peace. And so I don't think that it's an open floor for him to run in the direction of aggression.
Right.
And the international community wants peace.
Yes.
We are seeing what is happening in Gaza. We're seeing what is happening in Ukraine.
Yes.
Unless we are mad, we wouldn't want the war.
Yeah.
But having said that, one has to remember that there are times when politicians can be irrational.
Yeah.
It is our hope that Maduro isn't irrational, and that everything should be done to allow him to come off of that high horse and gradually come back to a state of peace and de-escalation of tension. And once that happens, I believe we will open new vistas for peace and security in the region and can return to normal life. And I'm defining return to normal life here to mean not the escalation of aggression, but dealing with it in the International Court of Justice and through diplomacy.
Thank you very much. You have another caller holding. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Pastor Gugu, and good afternoon to the opposition leader in Ghana. Pastor Gugu, well, the meeting today will be a meeting on a peace zone, a zone of peace.
Right.
Not on, as the opposition leader said, not on the land, territorial land, because that is in court, and the court will decide that. But what I want to ask the opposition leader, right? Our Prime Minister take a stand between, they wanted him to be a mediator, right? He couldn't mediate because it wasn't multinational. It was a bilateral meeting between Venezuela and Guyana. Is the opposite? Could you ask the opposition? Is it right that the stand that Dr. Rowley take not to mediate because it wasn't a meeting, it was bilateral? Thank you, Pastor Hugo.
Thank you very much.
I'm not sure I got the question.
They have
Honestly.
there were calls by the opposition in this country for our Prime Minister to mediate between Guyana and Venezuela. And the Prime Minister said that he is not going to mediate because the CARICOM has a policy that he sticks with. Do you think he was
Has a policy that?
That's a policy that the CARICOM had taken, that they were not going to get heavily involved in the dispute, in mediating, in being mediators. But in other words, he's saying if you think that the Prime Minister was wrong for not trying to mediate between Guyana and Venezuela.
Well, on these issues, it's not necessarily wrong and right. Look, I don't know what factors would have contributed to Prime Minister Rowley not mediating. As I understand it, CARICOM took a decision, and it is CARICOM together with ECLAC who decided the approach that should be taken.
Right.
If it was a Caribbean community decision, I don't think that the Prime Minister should have.
Right.
He should live with the agreement at the level of CARICOM. If it is CARICOM that would have agreed that it was St. Vincent to do it, or it is ECLAC who agreed, then you should live with that agreement. I, however, do believe that Prime Minister Rowley has always been in support of Guyana.
Yeah.
And his desire not to is not considered anti-Guyanese. It might be more of the variables involved at the diplomatic level that caused them to not want to be embroiled outside of the confines of CARICOM.
Thank you very much. Take another call. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Pastor Gugu and the opposition leader.
Yes, of Ghana.
So I would like to find out, in aside from the equipment thing, right, why it is that Guyana didn't use the opportunity of using our refinery, not in use right now, right? And choose to build a refinery. But yet, they are part of CARICOM, and we're supposed to be dealing together. What do you think of that?
All right. Thank you. He's asking.
Well, I don't know the specificities.
Right.
But let me say this. A government led by us will be committed to Caribbean regional integration.
Beautiful.
And if perchance it is feasible and viable for Guyana to utilize a Trinidad refinery, then we will. Because historically, we have committed ourselves to regional integration. I don't want to get into any details because I don't know the details.
Okay.
That most likely will be government to government
Arrangement.
Negotiations. But what I can say to you in principle, we do believe in what our founder leader Forbes Burnham said, that we either integrate or perish, and we will opt for integration rather than perishing. And so if Trinidad has opportunities that can be utilized to redound to the benefit of both Guyana and Trinidad, I can reassure you, with our commitment to integration, that will be realized.
Thank you very much. You take one last call. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Pastor Google.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to the opposition leader of the Republic of Guyana, or the thing there. My issue is that I've been bombarded on one side of the story, the information of this. And as I stand right now, I am pro-Guyana. But however, there's something that little worries me. And the 1899 settlement that the same British, under the British Guyana, ruled on a matter. And to me, in rule of law, there is conflict of interest. And I need to understand Venezuela point from the Venezuelan point of view of it. And now I know a lot about Guyana's point of view for me to make an informed opinion on the matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kola. You heard what he said, right? Hello?
Again, it has more a comment than a question.
Okay. Can you take one more call? You want to take one more before I allow
Yes,
you?
because I agree to a question. I welcome Mr.
Let's take this call. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to the opposition leader of the Guyana government. I have one question. Seeing the value of the Guyanese dollar, if you was to get into office, do you think that you are able to raise the Guyanese dollar from what it is presently now to almost the West Trinidad? Because when we give 100 TT dollars, we get 2,500 Guyanese dollars. So with the oil in Guyana, do you think as the opposition leader, if you get into power, that you can raise the value of the Guyanese dollar, sir? That's my question to you.
All right, let me say this. That will involve a process.
Yeah.
Let us not forget that when you raise the value of the Guyana dollar, you make your goods less attractive to the outer world.
Okay.
Of course, there is the positive of your money being of higher value, etc., but it also has impact on your trade. I believe, and this is one I will consult with my advisors on.
Right.
I haven't in recent times, but I do believe from my understanding of economics, etc., that we can't treat this thing as an event in which you wake up one morning and bring the Guyana dollar in line with the US dollar. It has to look at all the variables involved in the economy and unleash a process that allows you to get there without creating the disruptions that are caused by getting there swiftly. So to me, it's something that we have to pay careful attention to before we say that is what we will do or that is what we wouldn't do.
All right. So I want to thank you very much for taking the time to educate me, first of all, because you have educated me, you have opened my eyes to certain things that I may have missed, and for allowing yourself to be open to take questions from the listeners and viewers of the Street 919 FM. I don't know if you have any closing remarks you want to leave with us.
Just to say thanks for having me, and to say that I do believe when one accepts to come on this program, unless they have something to hide, they should be disposed to taking questions. I try my best to always be available to answer people's questions. I think people come to these programs with the hope that the issues they have to resolve are resolved in terms of information being provided. And I will close by saying I want to thank Trinidad and Tobago for its support as individuals, country, and as part of CARICOM. And I look forward to us developing the relationship not only with the government of Trinidad and Tobago, but the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because there are so many similarities between Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago. If we don't talk, we stand up, you will all believe we are the same. That is what I'll say in closing.
Thank you very much. And again, I want to ask you to, continue to do the good job that you're doing. And I hope we can continue to be communicate that the way we do. All right? I look forward to talking with you again.
I am always disposed, and you can guarantee once there's a mutually agreed time, I will make myself available.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Talk to you.
Thanks and good afternoon to Trinidad and Tobago.
Good afternoon to you. Bye-bye. There you had it, Trinidad and Tobago. There you had it. I had the opposition leader, boy. The official opposition leader of Guyana on Street 99 FM. I hope that you all got the information. You're happy with the information. I hope I did a good job. You know, I'm trying my best now to do a little international something. I want to publicly thank our traffic lady, Miss Marcel, for actually getting this interview for me. I want to say to you, Miss Marcel, thanks very, very much for believing in me, first of all. I say, I want to say to you, Miss Marcel, you know, thanks very, very much for believing in me and believing that I could have done an interview with the opposition leader of Guyana. And I hope that you continue to have faith in me to have me do interviews like this. And Trinidad and Tobago, we just have a few minutes left before the Juju Love show, so I'll take some of your calls. So today was a packed day. I had the chairman of the Tunapuna Regional Corporation, Mr. Josiah Austin, talking about the situation that took place early this morning at Bamboo number 2. And after that, at 1 o'clock, from 1 till 1:50, I was speaking with Mr. Norton, the official opposition leader for Guyana. So, taking your calls, 342-0081, 466-5391. Hello, good afternoon, caller. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, Pastor Google Solman, yeah, well done. Well done with that interview. I just look at it with the Ghanaian opposition leader.
Yeah, man.
I wish we opposition leader had.
We didn't go there.
Like that. That Ghanaian opposition leader really have Ghana. That I wish we opposition leader was the same.
Yeah, man.
But well done.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, taking your calls, 342-0081, 342-0081, 466-5391, 466-5391. You can call me and tell me what are your views. You have sat down, and I know that you will have gotten all the information and you would have heard the interviews. So tell me what's your view. All right? Call, I don't know what happened there. Your phone got locked off. All right, so we're taking your calls, 342-0081. The countdown is nearly on, so taking your calls. Hello, good afternoon.
President on Inside One. Nice program I listened today, man. Since I listened the whole time from since after 10 to now, you know, so I catch this good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. You're emotional. What? You grow plenty, man, and you load up the social thing. Good. You deal with that interview very excellent. I get some pieces instead of to make up with what I don't know already.
Yeah, man.
But you did well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Hello, good afternoon. Hi, good afternoon. Hey, Mr. Chance. Oh, Lord. I hope I did well.
Very well. I just called to commend you.
Thank you.
Very well done. And because you see, I need to make the point. I listened to you from when Naka was there, and I want to indicate to her that, as I've mentioned on this time.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with friendship and colleague and all of that.
Yeah.
The professional journalist pursued the truth, and you did an excellent job.
Thank you.
Excellent job. Attention that he mentioned. He mentioned the diplomacy.
Yes.
Diplomacy.
Yes.
You know that Pastor Google? It means that earlier this year, April this year, do you know that Hugo, the Mr. Maduro promised all those Caribbean countries that he will give them 35% discount